Perfect. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I know we're still waiting for a few more people to join us as they're transitioning out of class and into the meeting here. But I'm so happy to have a great group of representatives joining us today, of course. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Here we go. Perfect. There we go. All right. So yes, thank you for joining us for the logistics and supply chain management advisory board today from 3:30 to 4:30. As you're entering the virtual advisory board, please be sure to mute yourself upon entry. And then for check-in purposes, we are asking all representatives to use the chat box, which is an icon at the very bottom of your screen. And you'll type in the chat your first and last name, job title, name of school or district. And then for the industry professionals, if you'd like to check in as well, first and last name, job title, and you can list your company. And then my colleague Sherry is also helping with checking on her end. And for educators, all information will be shared back with your district and or college representative that you are representing today. All right, and then we also want to make sure that your name is listed in your visual box. So if you do need any assistance with that, please let myself or Sherry know. But you can edit yourself by hovering over participants at the very bottom, which is an icon with two little people. You'll click that and the participant column will open. You'll hover over more, and then you can select rename if you'd like. And then again, if you need help with that, let me know or let Sherry know, and we can edit for you. All right, and then just a couple of events that we've had going on. VitaLink actually just completed our official open house last night. And that's because we have officially moved to Garden Grove. So if you would like to come and check out our new office, feel free to stop by at any time, Monday through Thursday, between 8 and 4 p.m. And then we have a great group of representatives here today. We actually have a 10-minute presentation from an Amazon representative. It's going to talk about supply chain ecosystem and the challenges and how we help solve those challenges. And then we'll kick off around 3:45 with the panel discussion. We have a college representative joining us as well as industry professionals joining us. And then we'll continue on with any final Q&A at the last 10-minute mark around 4:20. And then finalize with our evaluation link, which is a QR code at the end you can scan. If you're not favorable with QR codes, no worries. We do have a link that will also be shared in the chat. And so for our college representative, we'll have Jorge Cestido Daniel from Saddleback College. And then for industry professionals, we have Ms. CJ Nord, Ms. Karen, Mr. Jerry, Sandeep, and Natalie. And so I'm now going to pass it over to Sandeep, who is going to share his screen for a presentation. And Sandeep, whenever you're ready.
Yes, I am ready. Fantastic. Happy Friday to everyone. How's everyone doing? That's good. It's good to see some visuals, coming in through the links. So that is super fantastic. Let me just share my screen so you can see it. Oops, not this. Where did the thing go? All right, hold on just 1 second. Okay, here we go. Here is the Zoom, and then here is the screen, and here is the desktop. So can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, cool. So we start off with some quick introductions. I am Sandeep. I'm from Amazon Web Services. I have a pretty slick title, and it's called Chief Janitor. And you're all wondering, well, why janitor? And everybody, I see some smiles, But effectively, just the way that janitors are cleaning up mess and spills and sort of, making it all clean, from a technology perspective, we are doing the same thing. We're looking at, years and years of technical debt and spaghetti code, and then helping organizations go on a transformation journey by embracing the cloud computing, machine learning, and all of the newer things that are happening within this ecosystem. So it's super exciting. I work with connected vehicles. I work with connected factories. I work with supply chain sustainability initiatives. And then when I'm not working, which I hope it's more than when I'm working, I actually enjoy gardening. My gardening isn't the best. I think, with $500 of investment, my return is only $50 through the vegetables that I'm collecting. So maybe I need a different hobby. But that's about me. So we will go to the other panelists, for their introductions.
Sandeep, we're actually going to have you go ahead and kick off with your presentation if possible. That way we'll roll over to the representatives at 3:45.
Okay, that's fine too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about supply chain, the challenges that we see within the industry, and then just an example, of a solution that we have built in AWS. So if you remember the years 2021, 2020, and 2020, did anybody try to purchase a car during that time? I'm just opening this so I can see everybody's faces. Anyone try purchasing a car? What was the experience with pricing or anything?
Prices were going up because there weren't very many cars.
Yeah,
There weren't
prices were
chips. Yeah.
going. Yeah, prices were going through the roof, especially for used cars. And there were situations where, some of the used car prices were pretty close to the new car prices. And if you ask someone, they would all say, oh, it's a supply chain, supply chain issues. And you're wondering, like, what the heck is all of these supply chain issues, right? But if we were to just continue with that example, from a supply chain perspective, from an automotive perspective, supply chains are complex. If you think of a vehicle that is being built like any manufacturer, let's say Toyota, for example, there is literally, tens of thousands of parts that are there in that vehicle. There is nuts and bolts and engines and screws and dashboards and lights and LEDs and Toyota, obviously, as a company, doesn't make it all, right? So it's relying on suppliers that are there in different parts of the world to provide it with the different parts. And when there are disruptions, whether it's, the COVID disruption or whether it's disruptions due to geopolitics and war and other natural disasters, then that can, imbalance that supply chain. And you can't really produce vehicles. Think of it this way. You've got most of the vehicle produced, but a critical part, or any part for that matter, like let's say the brake shoes, you don't have those. Well, your vehicles are stuck. There's not much you can do till you either source an alternate part, put it in the vehicle, test out the braking system, and then sort of, take it forward, right? So does anybody remember what happened in March of 21 in the Suez Canal?
Yeah, the big ship that got stuck.
Yeah, exactly. There was a huge container ship that got stuck, right?
Oh, and that was such a big deal.
Yes.
And why was it a big deal, CJ?
Well, it really stopped the traffic. It stopped the global flow of ocean trade.
Yeah.
By having a giant plug in the middle of the Panama Canal. I actually, and very seriously, although I'm famous for my crazy ideas, suggested that the ship be blown up.
Yeah.
Blow it up and get it out, whatever it takes,
And it was a tough time because when you
yeah,
think
that
of
was a
the
biggie.
first, yeah, when you think of the first bullet, the lack of visibility. But what if these, brake pads that I talked about earlier, what if they were stuck on a ship? And that ship was traversing the Suez Canal. Well, now you have lack of visibility because you don't know when the original ship that is stuck is moving. And then what is your ship number behind all of this ships that are stuck, right? And there were, I think, the data that they shared was there was about 369 ships, big, huge container ships that were stuck behind this one. And so that lack of visibility can be, very unnerving. And then sometimes that's coupled with too much noise. And the noise in this case is you don't know how many ships are there. You don't know what's your ship number. Then people are telling you, well, maybe it's only a day thing, we'll figure it out. Well, the day sometimes goes into 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Then you start panicking. Then you start thinking about, well, who else could supply this, right? And then let's say you come to a conclusion that, okay, I'm going to go with supplier B. Well, then you have all of these coordinating actions that have to take place. You've got to talk to the supplier. You've got to agree on a pricing. You've got to bring in material planners into the picture. You've got to get pricing analysts. And all of that collaboration can take, a significant amount of time, right? So it's a very practical example that affected, a lot of us in different ways. I mean, whether it's car manufacturers and some supplies that maybe that we wanted, in our houses too. And so what we've done at AWS is, if you look at all of those challenges, you need these views, you need quick access, into the data. And so this product, that we have built called AWS Supply Chain actually allows you to connect all of these, disparate data sets that you have. So data from maybe the shipping company, data from the supplier that is supplying, to the shipping company, data from the truckers that are going to pick up parts, when's the ship docks, the trucks that are going to deliver to your factory, the sequencing in your factory. There's so many data points that are moving that if you had that ability to harmonize that into a unified view, across all of your data systems, then you have the picture of what's happening, right? But sometimes even after that, you realize that there is too much data, and so you want somebody to help you, right? That's where the machine learning and the machine learning powered insights come into play, which can tell you, hey, looking at this data without humans telling me, I just see that there are some anomalies going on. And I think these anomalies with these inventory levels that you have, are probably going to result into some risks. And therefore, I'm going to alert you, through machine learning to some of those risks in your system so that you could take corrective action. And then you take it a step further and you say, okay, well, what's the point of just telling me that there is a risk? Do you have any recommendations for me? Well, that's where, again, the supply chain system can provide you with recommendations by saying that, hey, from your prior history, you've ordered from these different suppliers, here are pricing from them. So you could potentially then decide, do you want to go with supplier A or B? Or you could even look at what inventory you have and come to the conclusion that, hey, I can ride this out because I have parts and inventory, for the next 10 days, and maybe things will, improve. And maybe I don't have to take, any corrective action. So when you have all of these things, assembled for you, where it's guiding you, where it's giving you the alerts, where it's giving you the recommendations, then that kind of helps you, in terms of managing your business. Okay. So how does that look? At the bottom of it, you have what we call as the data lake. So all these different data points that you have, data from the producers of your parts, then data from the ships that are carrying those parts, data being delivered on trucks, that are going to deliver your parts, those parts then coming into your different factories, which are used to manufacture. And then again, going from factories, into the different locations where they might be going. Because let's say in the case of vehicles, if a vehicle is produced every minute, then, those vehicles are getting bussed somewhere, right? Or going on a truck to the dealer. So where is that vehicle in that dealer? To which dealer is it going, and did it reach safely, and all of those things, right? So all of those data points, we collect into what we refer to as the data lake, and this is also done by machine learning. So you point the different data sources to it. There are algorithms that can read the data, and then they can normalize that data. And then once you have that data, then you can employ some machine learning on top of it, which is just unsupervised. It will just look at the different data sets and it'll tell you, hey, based on what all I'm seeing, you have some risks. You may have, a stock out situation where you're going to run out of, certain parts or raw material. You may have an overstock situation where you're just sitting on inventory. for the next 2-3 months that you don't know what to do about. And so you're just incurring costs. And it can then give you those, specific alerts of what's going on. So that builds, with the machine learning on top. Oops, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. And then, that is giving you those actionable insights that says, hey, there's going to be a stock out. You only have 3 days of inventory. What do you plan to do? Right? And then from those insights, you get these recommendations and you get a collaboration platform because, like I mentioned before, with these recommendations, again, you'll have to consult a number of people, within, outside your plant, your organization. So you need some collaboration mechanisms, you need some influencing mechanisms, you need people to nod to say, yeah, we're all agreeing. We are going to go to an alternate supplier. We've looked at the risk. This is not something that we can solve in the short time frame for which we're going to be affected, and therefore let's take some corrective action. So that's what this platform builds, right? And then the visualization of it, I'm just showing you a couple of screens. You could look at your different locations, and this is not, we're just looking at real-time inventory at just an example that was built over here, in these different stores. So it's telling you red, yellow, green, in terms of what's happening. You could potentially drill down, into a specific store, let's say in Atlanta, that tells you, what the projected inventory is. And you can see that in the bottom, you see that little green line, and then it's trending towards red. So it's saying, hey, you've got inventory, you're gonna be okay for 3 days, but then you're gonna go into this stock out type of situation. Therefore, you need to take some corrective action, right? Well, the visuals are good, but then what if, somebody would just create, a risk watch and then alert you, through either email or through notifications, maybe it's those notifications are coming to your smartphone or they're going to a notification system. So that way, those risks through notifications, you can manage those. And then these are the insights, for all the different areas, within where you can say, hey, there is a stock out risk, or there is an excessive stock, situation that you have, and it gives you, times, how long, you are in this particular situation, and what types of actions you would need to take. And then, like I said, there are recommendations. So in this case, when you find that there is something going on, it could say, hey, let's think of some rebalancing options. You could move some units from, Alabama. You could move some units from Charlotte. Here is the distance between them. Here is the score. Here is the CO2 emissions, from a sustainability perspective, so that, you're moving from the closest location and not having, like an adverse environmental impact, as a result of doing that. And then you can click on confirm and then be able to take it from there. So I see some things in the chat. I don't know if anybody has questions, but I'm happy to take, if there is some just high level questions, and then we can go into the other panelists. But I just wanted to give you a quick high level overview of, just the supply chain, how it affects, how, we can build some products to help. And then, specifically as you look at some of the themes, from an educational perspective, you see that there is a lot around data and analytics. So as you're thinking about, the skills that students need, there's a lot of that. You see a lot of, emphasis on machine learning, because there is sometimes so much data that, humans can't pour through all of it. And so you want, what we refer to as unsupervised learning, where the models are just looking at data, they're looking at trends, time of the day of the week, locations, seasonality, and then kind of coming up with insights, off of that data. And then you're just looking at, stitching all of this together. And so, those are the types of skills that, folks would be looking for. So Sherry, I am done with my introductions. I think we can take it to the other panelists.
Yeah, yes, of course. We could start the panel session with, you want to share your screen? Okay. So Sandeep, do you have the questions and everything that I sent you already?
I do, yes.
So we can continue. So since this is a smaller group of people, we're gonna have the college panelists and the industry people all together. So I don't know who would like to go first. Maybe Jorge.
Yeah, and so, sorry,
Yeah.
this is Sandeep's first time. Sandeep, if you want any of the representatives to introduce themselves, similar way that you did it. And then for the representatives that are joining us, it is more of like an open discussion as well. So if you have any questions or have a highlighting moment, please feel free to share. And we'll pass it over to you all.
Yeah, no, great. Can anyone hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Hey, good afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Vitalink, for arranging this group, this advisory board, and this whole group online. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jorge Sasola Daniel. I'm the regional director for talent retention and development here for the Orange County region. It's hosted at the Rancho Santiago Community College District. I'm it's part of the consortium, OCRC, and yeah, I'm just here to support the group in the region in any way that I can when it comes to these types of activities, advisory boards, WBL, work-based learning programs, presentations. So as you were going through your presentation, Sandeep, a couple of questions did come into mind, specifically revolving around skills. What types of skills is the industry looking for skills and knowledge? What specific skills are you looking for that I should be telling our instructors in the region and educators that they should be teaching our students? I'd like to get started with that question and kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to answer that. I'm just wondering if one of the other panelists wants to answer it first. Anyone would like to go? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I had provided I don't know if it's been distributed yet, but there is a set of classes that ASCM offers that are called the Foundations of Supply Chain and Operations. And those are smaller bite-sized certificates that students can learn, smaller compared to professional credentials, such as the ones that you see that Jerry and I have. And that when we talk about ASCM, which used to be called APEX, we're really talking about the organization which is the premier educator for the supply chain and operations profession. And when Sandeep went through his absolutely excellent explanation of the system, what he's really also describing is the logic that is founded on ASCM principles. So I strongly recommend that we look to that set of courses and build the student skills out from there. And that provides in detail information, where we were talking about earlier about students needing data analytics skills. Of course, that points to Excel and other things, but the foundation classes really teach the principles, and then the students can put that certificate as a badge on their LinkedIn profile too. So it's kind of like it's money. Okay, that's all I have for now.
Thank you,
The next person.
CJ. Another one of the panelists?
Yeah,
Like-
sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jerry
Jerry.
Gonzalez. So I work for Bigron Medical Inc. here located in Irvine, California. And I also teach classes at Cal State Fullerton University in a supply chain management, operations management classes in there. And I have taught classes also in the past for APEX. I put in the chat the ascm.org. I encourage everybody to go and visit it if you have not, and then you'll get more information there about the foundations. ASCM provide certifications the three main certifications versus the certificates the CJ mentioned. The certifications are really the one I really ones that can advance your career and can give you a all in two candidates for a positions, everything else being equal. If one of them have the certification, I most likely would choose the person with the certification. This one is they have three certifications. Anyone is not familiar with ASCM, because I don't want to share information that you already know. Okay, so ASCM, the Association for Supply Chain Management, provides certification. The one is CSCP, Certified Supply Chain Professional. That's the overall look from end to end in terms of the supply chain management, including reverse logistics, reverse supply chain. Then you have one that is the CPIM, CS Certifying Production and Inventory Management. That is one, the understanding within the different links in the supply chain. What would be your operations, starting for looking into your strategic planning, following down your production planning, down to your master scheduling, and down to your MRP, going to the details, including then the purchasing and production control. So that process and everything that goes into the inputs and the outputs and the analysis and the forecasting, so that one you can see. And the other one that they have is CLTD, which is Certified in Logistics, Transportation, and Distribution, which is once from the realm of the CPIM. Now you go into distributing your product, the product, and also including your the supply of your incoming items, because your supply have a distribution network to get the product, the products to you. And we look at that. These three certifications are covered body of knowledge. They have a APICS body of knowledge. There is some overlap among them because you need to have certain knowledge associated with them, but they also have their own focused body of knowledge. And my personal experience in terms of certifications, that has helped me incredibly to perform my job, because one of the things that I do in my company at B. Braun is that my group provides the functional support at the site of the ERP system, which happens to be SAP. You might have heard of SAP as a enterprise resource planning system. And because we get what we call the certification knowledge, and then we see how in SAP all of these things are modeled, like the MRP, the distribution, the inventory management, cycle counting, and things like that. Helps to really understand how SAP would work. And that, combined with the knowledge of the processes that we run in the company, you have that advantage that can help you to perform the job. So I really recommend ASCM. The other certification that I recommend in my classes with the students is ASQ, the Association for Supply Chain Quality.
Yeah.
They have multiple, they have even more certifications, but the ones that they are more, as opposed to SAP that is encompassing the profession in general of supply chain management, operations management, and logistics. In ASQ, you have certifications that are geared to actual functional areas. For example, certified quality auditor, certified quality engineer, and things like that. I personally have the certified quality engineer and the certified manager of quality and operation excellence. Again, those certifications provide the people that have it with certain knowledge that will help us to, when we face a problem or an issue to resolve, we have additional information that we can help us ask the right questions to find the solution to the issues. And that's why knowing this. And the third one that I recommend highly is project management, like the Project Management Institute, the certification. That one I don't have it myself, but I do recommend it because a project management is a discipline that I see a lot of future in that.
It crosses over. May I add a little bit for in particular for the educators that are joining the call?
Please.
What Sandeep described when he went through that terrific presentation, and what Jerry's talked about today is often called MRP, Material Requirements Planning. Sandeep described a very sophisticated version of material requirements planning that Amazon has that's really marvelous. The education that ASCM delivers to the student and to the professional gives us the ability to think through what the system input should be that calculate the result that gives the recommendation to the buyer. So there's a human mind behind that with this credentials and the experience that thinks through that and then provides some of the data points, what we call inputs for the system that Sandeep generated. So I'm hoping that that kind of pulls it together for everybody. Does anybody have any questions about that, about how those things connect?
Jorge, since you asked the question, did you get enough information?
No, that makes sense. Thank you, CJ, for putting those things, those items together. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So it sounds like there's a couple of pieces that kind of ties into to this,
Yeah,
the supply
and
chain certificates.
yeah,
Mhm.
and also, of course, if you have questions after today, I've been more than happy to answer your questions. If you can reach out to me and we can talk some more about the organizations and other ideas that we may have. So
The nice
it
thing,
doesn't have to end today.
I'm sorry, Jerry. The nice thing about the certificate program for the educators is that it's written curriculum.
Mhm.
And the educators in the certificate programs can become the trainer in the certificate programs. We'd need to have somebody like Jerry if they were doing one of the credentialing programs.
Mhm.
So it makes it a very neat little package with a bow on it to be able to hand to Santa Ana Community College, whichever community college, and then you have consistent learning
Mhm.
across California community colleges in one of the highest manufacturing sectors in California. It makes it easy, and I think it's Jerry. I talked to Mark Imhoff at ASCM about that. I think it's priced pretty reasonably. I don't know the details on that, but I think it's priced pretty reasonably. But that gives you something that you can just kind of plug right in and go really fast with.
Yeah, I guess a follow-up question to this, and I think it'll be my last one, so I don't monopolize the discussion. But how is AI affecting this? You talked about data, and yeah, I know it's the topic that everyone's talking about now. But how's that affecting, and how should what should we be telling our educators that they should be telling their students when it comes to AI and ChatGPT and all those tools that are coming out?
I defer to Sandeep and Jerry on that one.
I think with ChatGPT, we need to tell people how to hit the return key and how to provide prompts. I'm just joking.
Prompt engineering.
I
Engineering.
yes. Well, I would say that AI, of course, is an emerging technology. A year ago, I don't remember. Have any one of you heard of ChatGPT a year ago?
No, it didn't
No.
exist. OpenAI was working on it. Mhm.
Okay, and the thing is that as good as it can be, always find another, like another source of information so you can verify, and like an independent source of information. It could be
That's a
the
good point.
Google or the Bing, but at least have more than one source to get information from.
What's really interesting is the certifications and certificates that we've been talking about. Just like most professions, 85% of it is vocabulary. Like, what does it mean for manufacturing? What does it mean for supply chain? What are the dependencies that are associated with a certain process or manufacturing workflow? And the same is true with machine learning. The thing with ChatGPT is it can be very confidently wrong. So
Hallucinations, they
That's
call
yeah.
them.
Great.
that's
And
why I
so
say
if you
that.
don't have a human, at least at this point, it's not good enough to be equivalent to a human with the actual expertise and knowledge to verify whether what it said is actually correct or whether what it said would work. And the same is true for any kind of generative AI. But the
Mhm.
type of AI machine learning that Sandeep covered, as far as like the supply chain product from AWS or any kind of machine learning you're using to make predictions around inventory or timelines and things like that, all of that is fed by the data that's associated with and
Mhm.
and collected from the supply chain process. So when we start talking about IoT, Internet of Things, devices that are internet connected that are sending telemetry and data points to a large data lake like Sandeep said, which is just like a collection of lots of data points. All of that data are what the machine learning algorithm uses to train the model. And so it can be much more accurate and much more specific to the process that it's making predictions for. So, the type of machine learning and predictions that are associated with supply chain are usually around forecasting, timelines, things like that, where you need a large data set to train the model on, and it's specific to that actual process. And the vocabulary is necessary, and the human knowledge of like, well, that prediction, does it actually make sense for what we're trying to do? Like,
Yeah,
and testing it and verifying it is a really important part of the process. I'm not saying ChatGPT is like hype or whatever. It's actually very cool and there's lots of things you can do with it, but you do still need humans in the process to verify whether what it's saying is making sense
Yeah.
to
and
avoid a
know
bullwhip.
and know the
Yeah.
actual the actual
Mhm.
functionality that it's driving and the business that it's driving, because if it suggests something that is totally out of line or doesn't make sense for the physical processes that we're describing, it's not going to be useful
Yeah,
or could be harmful.
in a way, it's not different from the caution that we have to have when we were looking at Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So we just have to.
Although Wikipedia is like humans are editing it. So there could be
Exactly.
like malicious
Yeah.
things.
Well, that's the
I
whole thing,
liken it.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I do like the trust but verify route where
yeah,
you still need a human in the mix to verify whether what the
yeah.
generative AI stuff is
a-
generating.
And again, because sometimes we're gonna be doing searches in areas that we're not subject matter experts, so it's always good to consult with a subject matter expert also, just to help you verify, that the information is not
Yes.
taking you into the wrong direction.
I liken it
Yeah.
to Google searches.
Yeah.
So
Trends
have
do not predict the future.
yeah, true.
Trends do not necessarily predict the future, and they can drive you into what the world is experiencing today, which is a bullwhip where we have an excessive amount of inventory.
Yeah, and we
So just following trends and the machine doing it will lead you that way.
the reason I liken it to Google searches is there's actually an art to doing Google searches and the prompts that Sandeep was talking about. How do you prompt it, right? Um, so I liken it to that. You still need the vocabulary and the domain, the subject matter knowledge to make that tool more
Okay.
effective.
Correct.
That's how I compare it. And I think that's how you should talk about it with your students,
Mhm.
right? That machine learning is another tool that we have at our disposal, just like computers, just like cell phones, just like Google, that we can use in an intelligent way to drive faster results or more accurate results in the future.
And we, exactly, because it is, there's no stopping it. It's coming more and more. So,
Yeah,
Hopefully
I
that
think that is
helped.
spot on. You know,
Yeah,
it's coming
it's
more and
not,
more.
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
it's
go
not
ahead,
to
CJ.
stop it. It's not to stop it, and it does help us. It does
Mhm.
help the professional know what to do next. It
mhm,
gives the professional the signal in ideally the amount of time that they need to do the human interaction. But all the feeds behind that, all of the orders that that system is giving, all of the direction comes from the supply chain professional, and that's based on the ASM learning,
mhm.
the ASCM learning. So it's still, no matter what, driven by humans, and it's trying to develop the best tool. But there are multiple examples within the education that show us what happens when we only follow trends. And we call that in the profession the bullwhip,
Mhm.
where we incorrectly predict something. So it's important to layer that in so that people don't start thinking that it is only the machine,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And so I think, you know, we've talked a bit about sort of, you know, the business specific skills, you know, through the different things about, you know, planning and purchasing and production control. And then there is the technical skills, you know, that we've talked about, you know, in terms of what types of technical skills do students need to develop. So it could be data and analytics and project management and machine learning. But there's also a component of soft skills,
Mhm.
right? And so maybe I'll ask someone to take that question. Besides all of this, you know, what type of soft skills do you think folks would need, you know, to be successful? Our future leaders and graduates that are coming out. Go ahead, CJ.
I'd like to actually suggest that the schools consider delivering California's anti-discrimination training to the students.
Okay.
And anybody that's a business leader knows that's the training that we go through every other year, that trains us on how to be sensitive to our biases, and to deal with a diverse group of people who are different sexes, ethnic groups, age groups than we're used to. And I think that I suggest the anti-discrimination training actually because of the same sort of reason that I did for the ASCM training, because it's a neat little package. And I think that covers really the soft skills that'll get the person into trouble at work. So anyway, thanks for listening. That's all I have on that.
No, that is so true. That is absolutely true. I think we all have unconscious bias. Sometimes we don't realize it. And especially when you're working in these areas, you know, you need to be aware of those biases so that you can work, you know, in this is, I mean, the supply chain area is one of the most collaborative environments where, you know,
Mhm.
people have to collaborate, you know, within, you know, across and the whole 9 yards, right? And so, you know, if that's where I think, you know, these soft skills and ensuring, you know, that you understand, you know, your strengths, your biases is going to be super critical.
I would also, my name's Karen Roger. I own a executive research firm, and I place logistics, supply chain, warehouse all across the US and in Germany. Daimler-Benz is my biggest account that I work with. I strongly recommend that the students really understand business terminology, that you're not calling someone dude. This is a business environment, and to dress accordingly. So take a look at how certain companies dress, and you want to be able to follow that. I've had times where I've had to have a candidate go back home and change their clothing because this is not a dating site. You are going to learn and be a part of an organization. And now with everybody having cameras on their phones, you could lose your job just by doing something incorrectly or not dressing appropriately. So one, your business attire. Two, talking in a business to business type will be very important. I also strongly recommend that even as a high school or college student, that you do get a LinkedIn profile. I know I've sent to Aria a LinkedIn, how to build your LinkedIn profile. And in that, LinkedIn also has learning tools where you can learn about different areas of business and supply chain, how to be a buyer, how to be a planner, all of that, logistics, supply chain, analyst, sales analyst. There's so many different areas and positions within logistics and supply chain that you can right now get some education on, as well as ask your friends' parents what they do. You'd be surprised, maybe one of them is a logistics director or supply chain manager. When you go on LinkedIn and you create your profile, you can also join different networking groups in logistics. So you can learn more and you can start asking people if you can do an informational interview. So you can talk to somebody from that organization. There are so many also third-party logistics companies like UPS, FedEx, and many others, XPO Logistics, and find out from them what's important, how are things changing. What scares me about AI and ChatGPT is that it takes away someone learning the basics, the foundation. If you go right to how everything works, you're gonna miss the steps on how it all comes together, because ChatGPT is just gonna tell you, you need to do this, but it's not gonna tell you what mistakes can happen if you don't do this, right? Or, you know, you've got weather trends, you've got all kinds of things impacting decisions that are made. And if you just rely heavily on ChatGPT or AI, you're not going to understand the basics, and that's where mistakes happen, repeat mistakes happen.
Yeah, that's where experience and intuition comes in, right? You need to learn that over time. It's not something that you could just type into a prompt and get the knowledge from. Good point. I like that.
I mean, I can even relate it to before. I mean, when I was growing up, my parents had to teach me how to count change back, right? And then you go, now you just push, you know, let's say you're working at McDonald's, you just push Big Mac, you really don't know how much it costs. Well, I had given the server a $20 bill, and it just so happened that the register died, and she did not know how to count back my change. So that is how I look at ChatGPT. When you're so dependent on something and that system breaks, you don't know what to do. So really learn all the different steps so you know how to handle something if you don't have computer access.
That is spot on, Karen.
I agree.
You know, kids nowadays sometimes, you know, it's like what I say is, you know, like you're on step 0 at the lower floor and you suddenly want to climb, you know, to the topmost floor, but there are stairs that you have to go through before you reach that higher floor, right? And there is, you know, when you try to use something like ChatGPT or something and you're attempting to climb, you know, from the lowest stair to the highest stair without sort of, you know, traversing the in-between, there are challenges, there are consequences, you know, and it's you know, when I take my kids shopping, you will see items that are close to one another, and I tell them which one is cheaper to buy. Is the bigger pack cheaper to buy, or is the smaller pack? And they're going like, wait, what? Aren't they all the same price? And I'm like, no, they're not. Now look at the pricing, look at the way that they're calculating it, you know, based on per ounce, or, you know, do some calculations in your brains to figure out, you know, how it would be. But, you know, taking these shortcuts, I think sometimes people just, you know, like lose track of it. And I think, you know, we're all guilty. I mean, like, you know, ever since the navigation systems have come out, like I'm only following what they say, you know, go right, go left. But now I've lost track of, well, am I going east? Am I going west? And if somebody were to tell me, hey, you're supposed to be going north and you're going south. It's like, that's not what the navigation system is saying. So, we're losing a little bit of just our common sense and creativity, with over-reliance on some of these tools. And one other point that I just wanted to add was I just read an article yesterday. Remember Watson, IBM Watson, that supercomputer which was beating up the Jeopardy champions? Well, you don't hear of it anymore, right? And so I think sometimes these things, come in waves. I mean, today, ChatGPT is the big thing. I think, I don't know, 6 months from now, if many answers are wrong, there's a lot of hallucination, it's causing more grief than, we don't know what the future of this could be the biggest thing, or it could even, falter out. I mean, nobody knows.
I
this
also
is
wanted
what-
to, well,
Go ahead,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to also add that I know that IBM is offering free training and certification on ChatGPT. Now, I don't know how long that free training is going to be available, but I just want to put that out there that I know a lot of people that are looking to get that certification on their resume.
I was just going to say, this is Mark McCulloch. I'm an accounting professor from Santa Ana College. Two of my colleagues in our department are on the call as well. We came here to look for new areas to offer in our curriculum, and this has been such a great discussion for a couple reasons. One is that it's really letting me know that our soft skills training is on the right track. We have resume writing, resume critiquing, LinkedIn courses in our curriculum that's offered by both the credit side and the non-credit side of our school at Santa Ana College. And so this is good to hear that those. We also offer ethics as a class and also as a part of each of our accounting courses. So I think it's good to hear. We obviously, our biggest challenge and our biggest goal is to get our students employed, and to know that I think we're on the right track on that. So I really appreciate the input on that. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark. I'm going to have one last question, which is, again, I think as we look at the different building blocks in terms of skills for the students, so between business level skills, technical skills, soft skills, the other aspect of this is sort of, what I refer to as just real world experience. And what types of, real world experience can we offer the students? And I'll kick it off. I think within Amazon, for example, we have fulfillment center tours. So, when somebody orders a package, what happens behind the scene in the fulfillment center in terms of how the package comes to the person that is packing, that's packing that thing, how it's barcoded, how do they figure out what type of packaging to use. And I think when you see a lot of that in practice, and you actually see, things moving and you're sort of moving along with the process, it gives you sort of that practical knowledge, in terms of, in terms of fulfillment, in terms of supply chain. And there's also, sort of talk about logistics. So I'd just love to hear, what other practical, and real world experiences we can offer and share, with sort of the educators. So I'll open the floor to any suggestions and ideas that you have.
Well, one thing I think, again, this is Mark McCulloch with Santa Ana College. We have a coordinator at Santa Ana College named Daniela Campos, and she does outreach to the community as an internship coordinator, and certainly offering internships, mostly because everyone in the accounting department is a CPA or attorney. We tend to look to those professions, but it would be nice to have internships in other areas of business. So that certainly, I welcome anybody on this call to, I can put Daniela's email in the chat if you'd like, but to create a community, working with the community and working with, certainly, I think firms of your size normally work at the four-year universities. I went to Loyola Marymount. We had very fortunately had a lot of big companies come to do internships. And I think at a community college, to be able to offer the same thing, you're going to get great students And I think it would be a great partnership. So if anybody's interested in that, I'll put her name in the chat.
Absolutely. Please do, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So if you don't mind, I want to address two things. Sandeep's question about the real world experience, and then I'll talk a little bit about the internship. But in terms of the real world, the interesting thing, I mean, all of us at some point we were to school, we were learning the textbook knowledge. This is how, you know, you want to have a successful operation. This is what you implement, let's say MRP. But in reality, that's when everything is supposed to be working like clockwork. But then life happens, like a big ship getting stuck in the. So what I'm trying to say is that in terms of the skills that we need, is people that can somehow address the issue, adapt to the situation. That it can be very, very fluid. Sometimes we, you know, you were talking about you being a janitor. Well, sometimes we have to be firefighters. Sometimes we have to be detectives. Sometimes we have to be, you know, different roles that we have, and getting to the understanding that life happens and not everything's going to be working like clockwork. And that's when the people that provide value to the position that they have is that they can find a solution fairly quickly, or help to find the solution, or you know, the actions that we need to do is not what happens, but how we handle it. So that's part of the skills that we need to look for. And in terms of that, there's a lot more to talk about that, but I want to mention something about the internship, because my company, Vibram Medical, actually has an internship program that starts on February of every year is when we start. That's where the process begins to get the applications, and it's done through our human resources department. And basically what happens is that once the top management with the different leaders of the functional areas have decided that they're gonna have how many internships, it's usually up to 10. And then it goes through the regular interviewing and recruiting process through our human resources department. It is a paid internship, and usually the interns start working towards the end of May, until, you know, for the summer program, because many students, this is for college and university students, they have usually it's either the internship or they have a class associated with the internship during the summer. But we do offer that, and of course, since we are in a manufacturing site, we have many different functional areas associated that could have opportunities. That's it.
I would also add that, you know, many companies will not hire an intern that is not 18. So some of, you know, the students that are in high school, I recommend that you get involved with a nonprofit. And the reason for that, it is a way for you to volunteer and give back to the community, number one. And number two, there are so many executives that are involved in different nonprofits. And this is an opportunity for you to maybe meet the VP of a certain company, because they're doing this because it's their passion. So find something that you're passionate about, get involved in that nonprofit, because this is a way for students between 14 and 17 to get some hands-on experience, make a difference. And I told a student this 2 years ago. He got involved with the Alzheimer's Association. He wanted to go into medical devices, and he just happened to be working on an event with someone from Medtronics. He ends up getting an intern job after he graduates high school that helps him when he's going to junior college, then to the next step, and will be more than likely guaranteed a role at this company because of his passion for the Alzheimer's Association and meeting that executive in a non-working environment. So really building that relationship, it will go such a long way.
Everything that Karen has said has just been so spot on. I'm glad that it's been recorded. I mean, it really should be like taken as a transcript from the LinkedIn profile. I mean, everything that she said just really nailed it. The one thing that I wanted to add in terms of what she just said about volunteer service, volunteer service is how I got my leadership skills. I volunteered as a leader and I learned to be a leader. And then when I got promoted as a leader, I was exponentially better than others because I had gotten people to follow me without even paying them. So volunteering and getting on a volunteer board, I mean, that is a ticket to success. It sets you up with the mentors, as Karen mentioned. The all of the ASCM chapters have a student component to them. So that's a built-in network for the students that want to go into supply chain and operations, become part of the student chapter of the local ASCM chapter. But you'll see consistently that people who have led in volunteer roles are exponentially better leaders of human beings.
Agreed. I'd like to add one more thing, if you don't mind. We're talking about how we help students, whether it's high school and college, in preparation for a career. And today we're talking about supply chain management related careers. But one thing that we need also to somehow stress is all the skills that's going to help them in life. For example, CJ mentioned the difference, the cultural difference, ethnicity, and all the stuff that applies at work and outside of work. Along those lines, I think that is very important that students learn the time value of money. And you know, because that's really what is going to build their retirement net. Okay. Yes, companies have 401ks and they're wonderful and magnificent, but they need to understand how that works, because there are other opportunities outside of the 401k. If the company they work for doesn't have it, they need to think about doing some investment on how that works and how through time the money really grows, and be diligent about putting that money on the side and not touching it, and have it. I know that some parents do it for the tuition for school when the kids start, but they have to do also for their future plan, what's going to happen after we're not working anymore. And the sooner we learn about that, the better. I wish I learned that even when I was in high school, even something as simple as balancing a checkbook.
You really make a great point. The students can also learn some of the basics about, well, if you do buy a house, when is it time to refinance? Some of those are the triggers that when we have mentors in our life who have already done those things, you know, parents, somebody, they tap us on the shoulder and go, I bet you it's the right time to refinance your house.
Yeah.
You know, but those skills, I mean, those will really make big differences for what life looks like for them.
We do try to offer personal finance we have a class in personal finance at Santa Ana College. And I am surprised at how many business majors are not really need a little more help on that. And we try to, within our business courses, we try to extrapolate the time value in a corporate setting with their own personal lives. A lot of them have student loans. They don't really realize, they don't know how to amortize the loan, know what their payment's going to be in June when they graduate, things like that. So I think we do a pretty good job at Santa Ana College to try to educate them on that. The problem is, and maybe Tommy can speak to this, is the state and the University of California and the Cal States kind of go back and forth on whether or not that personal finance class is transferable or not. So, you know, we do try to offer those soft skills, just so you know, our students should be ready if they take personal finance, should be ready with those things for themselves. And then we incorporate that, as Tommy just said in the chat, time value money is there's 2 or 3 chapters in Accounting 101 and 102 that we go over that with students. So they should be ready for you to, at least basically to be able to perform that when they get to you as employers. So
There's a supply chain and operations activity that could actually reinforce that, just called a time study. And it's simply a matter of clocking the amount of time it takes to do something and multiplying it out. Students would use that on determining when the return on the investment will finally occur. If it makes sense to buy a machine, it'll make the line that much faster, but it'll give them a tool to determine a time study and when their time kind of pays off.
And Natalie has also provided some links for Amazon tours, as well as the Amazon Future Engineers program, which provides, for scholarship for up to 4 years. And then after the scholarship, the 4-year scholarship is roughly $10,000 a year. So $40,000 in scholarships for students that get selected. And then they almost have a guarantee of an internship after the program. I mean, after their education is complete. So I think both those links are provided, for
And the AFE scholarships are specific to computer science and engineering fields, but we have other internship programs for other roles through our student programs as well. Now, I mean, there's a disclaimer. I don't know what that's going to look like this year, since with macroeconomic pressures, I'm not sure how much hiring we're going to be doing, but in general, we have investments to early career talent via internships, and first jobs as well. But those are specific to engineers. And then the fulfillment center tours are for everybody, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're on time now. I'm super thankful to all of the participants, CJ, Karen, Jorge, Mark, Tommy, Jerry, and for all of the questions. And I'll turn the mic over to Sherry.
Hi, everyone. Are you going to share your screen for the ending here? And thank you so much for everyone joining us. I really appreciate it. We've got really good information, and this will be recorded. So you'll have access to that, as well as access to a lot of other things that our industry professionals shared with me. And you'll have access to all of that. And Sandeep, if you want to share that PowerPoint too, you can do that as well. Just go ahead and send me everything, and I can have it all compiled, and everyone will have access to all of that. And so if you don't mind, take some time and then to do our evaluation, I will put the link in the chat as well. And there's also a QR code here. You can take the time to share your thoughts on this advisory board. That would be really helpful for us. And this is pretty exciting, because the logistics and supply chain is quite new for Orange County. So this is a new advisory board for us. So hopefully for next year that will have a lot more discussion and all that. So thank you so much again for joining us. And if you take time to take this evaluation, you could do it now or after you log off. We do want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thank you,
I'm really
everybody.
impressed
Thank
with
you for
everybody.
having us.
Yeah, thank
thank
you.
you.